Hello, friends. I'm Vitaly Portnikov. On the eve of possible sanctions being imposed against Russia and its energy partners, US President Donald Trump is increasing pressure on India. There is a certain logic to this increased pressure. It is obvious that the leadership of the People's Republic of China will not agree to any tariffs imposed by the United States and instead may introduce its own tariffs on American goods entering the Chinese market, as was already the case during the first recent tariff war between Washington and Beijing. India may seem like a country that would be more sensitive to American wishes, if only because India is a strategic partner of the United States. It is concerned about the growing influence of China in the region, and its Prime Minister Narendra Modi was until recently considered a personal friend of Donald Trump. However, it seems that the old friendship is coming to an end. Donald Trump has explicitly accused India of continuing to actively purchase Russian oil and subsequently profiting significantly from the lucrative sale of refined petroleum products that are directly derived from that very same oil. And India is absolutely uninterested in the number of people dying in Ukraine as a result of the war. And these significant accusations from the American president truly reflect the current global reality. Both the People's Republic of China and the Republic of India have extensively utilized the recent challenging years of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war to acquire absolutely huge volumes of crude oil from the Russian Federation at very substantial and advantageous discounts. And India has turned this purchase into a premium business. When crude oil from the Russian Federation is meticulously purchased with Indian rupees and then the subsequent oil refining process diligently transforms that raw oil into refined products that are ultimately sold on the Western market for valuable dollars or euros, this intricate financial and logistical operation highlights a complex global trade dynamic. It has been discussed for far too long that India is one of Russia's biggest allies in terms of the Kremlin's energy capabilities, and that through its purchases, it is essentially enabling Putin to continue his war against our country. However, Donald Trump, unlike his predecessor Joseph Biden, decided to forego special relations with India in order to reduce President Putin's ability to continue the war. The government in India has already responded to the new threats from Donald Trump, emphasizing that it will defend its own economic sovereignty and does not agree with the claims of the American leader. New Delhi emphasizes that both the United States and the countries of the European Union who accuse India of trading with Russia themselves continue to maintain profitable economic cooperation with the Russian Federation. And this also reflects the reality that we have been facing in recent years. When it comes to Russian products needed for the American economy or for the economies of European Union countries, trade with Russia continues in the billions of dollars and euros without even noticing that the United States and European countries, on the one hand, are helping Ukraine resist Russian aggression, and on the other hand, are financing this aggression. Only the new sanctions by Donald Trump against Russia and its energy allies could significantly reduce the volume of American trade with the Russian Federation. Although, to tell the truth, this situation could potentially become a significant problem not so much for the overall Russian economy as it could for the American one. Considering the substantial volume of trade that still remains between Moscow and Washington and the critical importance of the specific products currently coming from Russia, particularly for the essential needs of various American businesses and industries, this issue warrants careful consideration. But as we can see, Donald Trump has decided to take this risk as well, trying to force Russian President Putin to consider a ceasefire on the Russian-Ukrainian front. Despite the fact that New Delhi is making rather tough statements towards the President of the United States and the leaders of the European Union countries, this does not necessarily mean that India will continue to buy Russian oil after the sanctions imposed by Donald Trump come into effect. It is obvious that the Indian government will look for a way out of the situation to reduce the level of problems that may arise as a result of Indian goods entering the United States being subjected to a 100% tariff. And if we recall the recent 25% tariff on Indian products, then yes, a 125% tariff. After all, India does not have the ability to respond to the American tariff in the same way as the People's Republic of China does. On the other hand, there is a serious risk that New Delhi may decide that breaking off relations with the Russian Federation will turn Moscow into a side that is completely dependent on the People's Republic of China. For India, such an alliance between Russia and China represents a rather serious geopolitical risk, one that New Delhi may also be unwilling to accept. And that is why Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will have to solve a rather complex political and economic challenge. On the one hand, he cannot allow a situation of a sharp break with the United States because such a rupture would affect the entire Indian economy and could lead to instability in the country as a result of a deteriorating economic situation. On the other hand, India cannot allow the strengthening of the alliance between the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China, nor can it afford to become an enemy of Russia by refusing to purchase Russian oil, thereby creating economic problems for Putin, who is focused on continuing his war of annihilation against Ukraine. How Narendra Modi will solve this problem is quite difficult to say. We hear contradictory statements from members of the Indian cabinet. Some say that India will be ready to replace Russian oil, and in fact, for New Delhi, there are no particular economic problems with this, because before Russia's large-scale war against Ukraine, India actually did not buy Russian oil at all. Others emphasize that India will not give in to Donald Trump's blackmail and will defend its economic interests and its economic sovereignty. All these contradictory statements indicate that a final decision on how to act in a critical situation has not yet been made in the Indian capital, and it will be up to the Prime Minister to make it. But it is clear that what Donald Trump says about India and Russia helping to continue the war against Ukraine is a harsh political and economic reality that New Delhi will have to take into account. Thank you, friends. Stay tuned to this channel, subscribe